Support for the Lancast is provided by Winding Way Books, Ryan Hess, and Pennsylvania College of Art and Design.
Welcome to the Lancast. I'm Lauren Slesser.
I'm Jasmine Grimm.
And I'm Becky Svensson.
And this is Ladies' Night. Tonight we are going to start off with random questions from the audience. This is something that the guys started on Guys' Night, and it seemed to be pretty entertaining, at least for me. I don't know what you guys thought, but I found it to be quite funny at times. People have some really interesting questions. Some of these are submitted on Facebook, some are submitted via text, some are put on the website. So just for future reference, those of you who are our regular listeners, if you guys want to submit something funny for discussion or just random questions that you have, put them on the website, put them on Facebook, let us know what you want us to talk about. The first question we have was submitted by our very own David Moulton, and he asks, who has the best hair? Kevin Sorbo, who is an actor, Steven Seagal, who is another actor, and Guys' Night host Jason Mundock. So now for you people, for you folks in the audience, you can't see, but we have papers. We have photos printed out of each of these gentlemen so that we can compare the hair. What do you think, guys?
I am going to go for Mr. Mundock because he's competing against a guy with a mullet and a gentleman with a sword. I don't think he has the upper hand, so I'm going to give him the pity vote.
And I'm going to follow probably 90% of women out there and vote for the guy with a sword because he looks a little dreamy. Even though he might also be violent. So I've always had a thing for long hair.
Fair enough. I have to admit, I've never found Kevin Sorbo attractive. I don't know, maybe it's just the character. I'm just not into that. And I don't really think I know any movie that Steven Seagal is in, which that's really embarrassing.
That's a shame.
Because I know the name, like, he's probably in a million movies, but I've just never seen one.
What was he in?
Yeah. Tell us, Becky.
Under Siege, right? He was in Executive Decision. Bam! I had an older brother. And many others. But my favorite of his work, his great body of work, is that random reality TV show that he did. I think he lives in New Orleans and has been like a police captain for 20 years or something. So he brings like what we think of as Steven Seagal into his role in the police force, which in my head is mostly a lot of emphasis on, like, I'm going to say the wrong one, Jasmine, so don't judge me.
Okay.
But some kind of martial arts.
Okay.
You know, he's very good at that kind of thing, even though he's just this random white guy. And he also whispers really weirdly. And so he does that as well as you, like, are behind the camera, like that
creepy
follows
whisper?
him around. Yeah. But also, like, I have inner peace, you know?
That's an interesting mix.
I recommend that you check out the show. It's hilarious.
Well, I guess to be fair, like, I'm just going off of these pictures, and I have to say Jason Mundock. It's 2-1.
2-1. Jason Mundock?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Steven Seagal. You didn't get any votes tonight. Next on the list, Melanie asks, why do we drive on the parkway and park on the driveway? Did you guys see that coming? I think that's a good question. I've heard that before, but I don't know the answer to it.
That's the most brilliant question ever asked, but no, I don't know the answer to that one. How about you?
I blame the English.
The English or English?
The English, not like us as non-Amish people, but rather those who come from England.
Okay. And why do you blame them?
They put extra U's in their words, in our words. They do. You know, I can picture someone at one point saying, I'm going to put a little lane in front of the house for my car. What should we call this? We should call it the driveway. But you do drive on it as well as park. You know, let's be reasonable.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think that the meaning behind a lot of the words that we use today are not anything, not to say that they're not anything like what they were when they started, but we just don't know the story behind it. So usually there's a good reason for why it was in the beginning, but it doesn't really make sense to us now. Any other thoughts?
That one's a stumper.
Yeah.
I might go home and Google that one.
So next on the list we have Liam. How do you ladies feel about being offhandedly referred to as the girls?
Nothing wrong with it.
I already answered via Facebook saying that it's made me feel a little bit like I worked in a saloon, you know? Like you wash glasses in the morning and then you go upstairs at night.
Ooh.
In the saloon.
Wow. That's really rough.
I'm just kidding. But I wasn't offended until Liam pointed that out a little bit, so. I think the three of us are all pretty similarly, you know, strong women, but we don't get offended too easily.
I don't find anything offensive with that because I still think of myself as a girl, so. Yeah.
The girls.
Jasmine was trying to convince me last night that I need to start picking clothes that look older.
Not older, just age appropriate.
Well, right. But see, you could have different opinions about that.
You could not argue that like little kid clothing from Justice and things like that is age appropriate. But that is a tale for another day.
All right.
Well, Liam, thank you for your concern.
Yes, we appreciate that. All right, so Spencer, who has been featured on a previous show of the Lancast. Hi, Spencer. Who is the sexiest Ghostbuster, like now, in 2012? You guys are really on this sexy kick. I don't watch... Gosh, I'm really sorry, Spencer, but I don't watch that. Is that a show or a movie? Like, I know of the Ghostbusters when I was a kid, there was a cartoon, and I know I can kind of sing the song, hum along with the tune. Ghostbusters! Da-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na. That's all I know. I don't know anybody that's in that.
In the neighborhood.
Maybe I should be embarrassed that I don't know that, but I can kind of use my kids as an excuse because I don't really watch TV. I don't have time. What do you think?
I remember that there was Bill Murray.
Okay.
And he has such an unenthusiastic look on his face as he goes through life for at least the past 20 years, so I'm not into that.
Yeah, me either.
I think there's a black guy. I pick him.
The black guy.
I'm going to go for Slimer. I don't know any other characters. Maybe the Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, he's cute.
He's pretty cute.
I like him.
I could snuggle up with him and, nibble on him a little bit. I'm going to go for Marshmallow Man. I changed my choice.
That's good. I like that.
I like marshmallows.
So there you have it, Spencer. You're going to have to find some other questions that we actually know the answers to. Ray, my good friend Raymond, what's the deal with Oprah Winfrey? What kind of question is that? Honestly, I don't even know how to answer that.
Well, Raymond is obviously really missing Oprah and feeling intensely the void that she has left in daytime television. So let's try to understand where he's coming from.
That's a good... I hadn't thought of it that way.
Raymond just probably followed her faithfully every day. And now he wonders, why isn't Ellen measuring up? Where is Oprah? She feels like a good friend of mine. How can I get in contact with her? What's she doing these days? I think that's what he's saying.
You're probably
in
right.
This question. So as far as I know, she has that network, the OWN network. That's like a glorified Lifetime.
Okay.
Oprah Women's Network, is that what it stands for?
Something like that.
I think something like that. I'm not sure. Couldn't quote it.
I knew she was doing something.
And I bet I think she's trying to transition to being someone who's behind the camera and making a lot more money. But if I were her, I would just retire and spend all of that money.
Really?
She's doing pretty well. I mean, honestly, no. I would do different.
I was going to say,
life.
that doesn't sound like you. The other
she's got
Becky,
a lot.
the evil side.
Uh-oh. Yeah, the really shallow version who voted for the guy with the sword.
Yeah. Okay.
Would just spend all that money.
I don't
That's
know.
a lot of money.
I think she's got a pretty cool gig. I mean, think about it. Like, she gets to hang out with pretty much anybody she wants in their homes and kind of go here and do this and do that. Like, I would love to have her job. I think the one episode that really resonated with me, not that I'm admitting that I watch Oprah, but I've seen it a number of times, was when she interviewed Steven Tyler up in Sunapee, New Hampshire. And the only reason why that one really resonated with me was because I've been there before. And when I would stay up there, we would get in these little paddle boats and then paddle across the lake and sneak on his property and look through his windows.
Are you serious?
Yeah, true story.
That is
very
so
true story.
cool.
So, I don't know.
Did you steal some pebbles or leaves or something off?
At full disclosure, I did not steal anything from the property. I did not, I promise.
I would have.
Yeah, absolutely. Trespassing, and I don't know, I'm sure we broke some other kind of law doing that too, but yeah, and we'd peek in the windows, and they weren't there, but it was still the adrenaline rush.
I'd be so creeped out if someone peeked in my windows like that.
Yeah,
but
I
if
would
you're
famous. I think they're used to it. Don't you think so?
I don't know, up in that little town of Sunapee, New Hampshire. Like, he's really all about that town. And we just wanted to do it because no good reason. When else do you get a chance to do it?
Wow, that's cool.
It was a fun day.
So was Oprah doing that too on the show?
You know, I think she was. I think she was inspired by our actions.
Sneaking back and forth between windows.
But I don't know. I've never been on the inside. I've never sat there and hung out with them. But I don't know. I think that would be a pretty cool gig. So that's what I think the deal is with Oprah Winfrey.
With my last haircut, as I was driving home, I was thinking, shoot, I look like Steven Tyler. So
Is that what you were thinking?
I can try to style it exactly that same way, and you too can experience what it's like.
Wow.
To talk to Steven Tyler.
I think you should do it.
That's pretty amazing. I actually think that Oprah is really cool. I think that a lot of people give her a bad rap. I definitely see that she gets a lot of criticism from the more conservative end of things. She is a lot more liberal. But honestly, there are not too many people in show business or just famous people in general who help or try to help as much as she does. I'm not saying like nobody. Bono's up there on the list. Angelina Jolie. Like, I know there's others that are very well known and very wealthy that give tons of money. But I feel like she has taken it on herself as her fame and popularity grew to really try to connect with people on their level. And yet she still remained very professional. Just all through her career, I have a lot of respect for the lady. And what's really awesome is she's a female and she's African American. So, like, knowing where she grew up from a very, very poor neighborhood, the fact that she was able to push out of that, not that it's, like, terrible to stay in the neighborhood, I'm just saying the fact that she was able to make a name for herself, make a life for herself, and then turn around and impact, like, the entire nation and even around the world, that, you know, she's brought light to a lot of issues that people may not otherwise know about, or at least not on a wide scale. And because she's so well loved, she just has a lot of influence. She can bring the spotlight onto issues, you know, people being taken advantage of, all kinds of different stuff that, you know, the average person like us wouldn't be able to have that impact. So I don't know. I think people give her a bad rap and she doesn't deserve it.
We're just jealous.
We are. I'm totally jealous.
Did you hear about that book that someone put out about how to get on Oprah? Because if you have any kind of product or any kind of service,
it'll sell out if it goes on Oprah.
Yeah, so
it's true. Well, now it's Dr. Oz. If Dr. Oz puts out a product,
weird.
Because see, Dr. Phil got his career from being on Oprah, and then Dr. Oz, and I think there was probably a bunch of other people in there too. Rachel Ray. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who have become really famous because they were on her show.
I was within 15 feet of Dr. Phil.
Really?
I recently went on the Rachel Ray show.
Wow.
And flirted with more women non-verbally to get in the front row more than I ever have in my life. Good for you. And it
You're
worked.
honing your
by
skills.
Golly, it worked. And he was a surprise guest, and he made this really, really strange object. I forget what he called it, but it was like a tortilla, and then you fry it on one side, and you crack 3 eggs on it, and then you flip it over, and it's done.
Wow.
Wait, say it.
But it gets all like crispy. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those like a guy who doesn't really know how to cook tries to cook, and it actually ends up being kind of fun and good.
That's hilarious.
But he seemed like a nice guy.
I'm gonna have to try
He
that.
wore a lot of makeup.
He wore a lot of makeup.
So how did you woo your way to the front row?
It was really funny. I went with 3 other women, young women, 2 of whom are like really new moms, and we just want to get in the front row so we could like get a better chance of being on camera. So we got in the right line and outside, and then I all of a sudden realized like it's just about physical appearance, so we need to look as peppy and like into it as possible. So every time we saw someone with a little name tag, I was like, "Hi!" And that's totally not my personality. I'm really mean.
That's hilarious.
And then we approached the like metal detector, and there was a girl standing there, and she was even cuter than the rest, and she had 3 different colored highlighters, and then she had a list of the like the guests manifest kind of thing. And so I knew this is the judger of the hotness and the perkiness, and so I put on my biggest smile, and I told my friends to do the same. And she picked the blue highlighter, and I didn't know what that meant, but she highlighted our names in blue. And then when we finally were about to go into the show hours later, they put the blue wave first, and we were at the front of the blue wave, and they put us in the front seats because I flirted with the girls with the headsets who were seating us as well.
That's awesome.
It's important to flirt with people, you know, like nonverbal communication, it goes a long way. But like, I think chicks flirt with chicks more than they realize. Like, we're always like, nice shoes, nice hair, nice whatever. But really, we're just building up a rapport. There's nothing wrong with flirting with girls. I'm straight, I'm married. I should definitely clarify that. But I think girls do it all the time. We do. We just don't say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
is like, I will admit that I will say stuff like that as a gesture of goodwill or to start up a conversation with someone who feels uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
But I never lie. If I don't like their shoes, I don't say that I do.
No, I don't lie about
Yeah,
it,
me
but I
neither.
find one good quality that I like about somebody, and then I point it out, like, you have really nice eyes. Like, I try not to go for, like, nice butt, nice anything like that. Like, I stick to, like, shoes, eyes, hair, like, you know, things you could talk about in church.
Right.
But I don't think
But
there's
not on
anything wrong with that.
Lancast.
But not on Lancast.
No boundaries here.
No, it is kind of open here.
Sherry asks, what is the nicest thing you've ever done that nobody knows about?
If I told, then y'all would know. Let me think.
Silence. You can hear a pin drop.
Yeah, this is kind of taking away like our little inner reward for not telling anybody.
Yeah, come on, Sherry. What's up with that?
But since we can't let silence hang, I will tell of my many good deeds.
The humility.
One time when I was in college, there was this big blizzard, and I was driving past the old people's home in our little college town, and there was this old lady, and she was trying to walk back into like the old people's home kind of complex, which is one of those kind of low-income apartment buildings, and she just like dropped to her knees in the snow and face planted in the snow.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
And it was like there's nobody out, and I was already kind of far away, but it was so scary. Like, I was afraid that she would suffocate in the snow, which I guess is silly. But anyway, it turns out she was drunk.
That's
like
awesome.
So even old ladies get drunk.
So she probably still doesn't know about it. She probably doesn't remember. Do you think she remembers?
I honestly don't think she's around still, but
Oh my
I don't
goodness gracious.
I hope she was
think I
okay.
would've had a heart
how
attack.
how scary would that be, though, if you were on your knees? She looked like a baby with, like, when babies are sleeping and their butt goes up in the air, and she was just stuck that way with her face in the snow. Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Moving on.
Yeah, my heart would be in my
Moving on.
throat there. Nothing really is coming to mind that no one would know about, but something that I did that I thought was pretty cool was maybe about 8 years ago. Keith and I were going to Bible school down in Dallas, Texas, and we worked at Chili's, and there was a fellow server who we really got along well with and kind of hit it off. And we kind of both understood each other. We were both sort of on hard times. It was at the school that we were going to, you couldn't get loans for the school because it's not accredited, so you had to pay everything up front. And if you didn't pay, you couldn't graduate. So there was a lot of pressure to get all of our payments in. And then somebody gave us, I don't know, a big chunk of money at the end so that we could graduate. And they also gave us extra money so that we could buy a really nice outfit to wear to graduation, which was just totally unexpected. And then we decided to go to Chili's before the ceremony, and she was waiting on us. And we got, I don't know, like French fries or some little tiny appetizer. And then we paid with a $100 bill and walked out. And, well, I guess we were leaving. And she's like, we didn't realize this. Like, I had written a little note on the receipt that said, keep the change. And, you know, we wanted her to have the money. And she didn't realize that because she didn't see the note. So she's frantically running all over the restaurant trying to get change for this $100 bill. And that was always something that annoyed all of us as servers, was that these people who didn't really have very much money would come in with these huge bills to make it look like they had more money, just because, I don't know, that's just a status thing in that culture down there. So I felt really terrible then that, you know, but then when she realized that it was all for her, then she kind of freaked out and she was really excited. So it was cool because other people cared enough about us to give us something that we weren't expecting, and then we were able to pass it on to her. So not a whole lot of people know about that, just her. And now all of you lovely Lancast listeners.
Trying to think. A simple thing I do, sometimes I'll put money in meters if I see that it's getting ready to run out. So that's probably...
That is a cool idea.
Thanks. It only costs 25 cents, and then, you've made somebody's day.
Can you do it with the new meters downtown?
I don't know. I haven't tried it there yet, but with the old meters, every once in a while, I'll just put some change in.
David's nodding his head yes.
Yeah?
Are you sure? Because those things confuse me like anything. I'm fortunate enough to be able to park in the parking garage when I go to work, so I don't have to use them. I've used them twice, but I tried to add money to the meter one time, and it just, put on that I put 25 cents in because I didn't punch in my space number first or something, so I guess if you know the space number, you can put it in.
Maybe.
Something like that.
I always did it with the old meters, just walk by, drop a little change in if you know it's running out, because there's nothing worse than going outside and then seeing you have a ticket and you're like, seriously, I was just a minute late.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I'd want somebody to do that for me.
Those meter maids, they're out there.
So David has let us know that what I do is evidently against the law, so I have officially admitted to doing two things against the law, trespassing and then filling up the meter. So if I get arrested for anything, I hope it's for the meter thing.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to post bail, you can round up some change and get me out, but...
Oh, wow. All right, moving on here. Our last question was submitted by my husband, Keith Slesser, and he says, who is sexier, Brad Pitt or Johnny Depp or David Moulton?
Why do you dudes care about who we think is the sexiest? I'm just going to say you, and then I'm done with it.
Wait, Jasmine, where are you going? Where in the world did she go? Guys, seriously, get off this whole sexy thing. I don't even know what to do with that. Do you have any thoughts?
We are more than our sexual preferences.
Wow. That's deep.
But I am straight, for the record.
Okay, well, I do actually have an answer for this one. I think Keith rigged this. That's really not fair. He knows that I am just really in love with Johnny Depp, or at least the idea of Johnny Depp. Not that I actually know him personally. But I've already admitted on the show that I also have a crush on David Moulton, because I would have said David Moulton, except that he threw Johnny Depp in there, so that's a curveball. So I have to say Johnny Depp. I'm sorry. I'm a traitor. Hey! Look who it is!
I was just going to the bathroom, ladies. Sorry.
Welcome back, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Well, that was an interesting round of first questions from the audience for Ladies' Night. But
It was like a really bad first date.
That was kind of.
But would you be open to seeing him again?
60-40. 60-40.
Sounds like a yes. So, listeners, please submit more questions. We'd appreciate a greater variety. But
yes,
we
please.
welcome your participation.
Yeah, just assume that you're the hottest person. Like, from now on, that's the default answer. Give us good questions, like, I don't know, what does E equals MC square really mean? Like, I don't know. Something thoughtful.
Well, that means then that we would have to review them ahead of time and do our homework before we show up here.
Or we could make up answers.
Oh, well, that would be fun, too. I like doing that. So, moving on to the next segment of our show. Each one of us is supposed to come with at least one topic to discuss. And mine's kind of funny, so I guess I'll start. The other day, I was driving in the city, and I was going to the library or something, and I was about to turn off, and I see this guy driving the wrong way on a one-way street on his bicycle. And I'm watching him for, I don't know, half a block or something as I'm coming up, and there's a bunch of traffic, other cars around me and stuff. And somebody must have yelled at him because he turns back, he kind of throws back over his shoulder. I totally forgot what I was going to say. He looks back over his shoulder and he's like, I'm riding an effing bicycle, not a car. And I just had to post it on Facebook. I was like, I love when ignorant people are so cocky. Because I see so many people riding their bikes in the city the wrong way on the road, against traffic. And they just think that that's normal, and when anybody gives them a hard time about it, they flick them off or they get really cocky. Then they're riding on the sidewalk, so they're running kids over and stuff like that. And it's an interesting issue because on the flip side, my neighbors have a bunch of kids, and they have a wide area of sidewalk that they repaved themselves. And all the kids like to ride their bikes, their little tricycles and smaller bikes on that area of sidewalk. And they don't get a ton of traffic on, in our neighborhood. So I feel like, okay, that's okay. Like somehow I'm okay with the fact that they're riding on the sidewalk because they can move out of the way. There's enough space that they can. But when you have these narrow sections of sidewalk, or if you're downtown where it's really, really busy and there's a lot of pedestrians, it's just not a good situation for anybody if you're going the wrong way. But people, the thing that I think is so pathetic is that people don't even know. Like I remember going through safety classes in high school and junior high about this. Did you guys do that?
I went to public school. We didn't cover that.
Seriously. I'd think that would be more of an issue with public school because there's so many more kids.
No, we focused more on like
Dare.
Huh?
Dare.
No, did we do Dare? No, we didn't do Dare. We talked a lot about like I don't remember. Parallel parking. I remember that. I don't remember riding the bikes, like learning about riding bikes in school, but I do remember, random laws and rules and stuff with driving. Like if you were to go 100 miles an hour on the snow and you hit a patch of ice and slammed on your brakes, you'd go for 2 straight miles. I remember random things like that, but I definitely don't remember.
2 straight miles, huh?
That's what my driver's ed teacher said. And I always thought that was fascinating. And it kind of made me want to try it, but I didn't. But I never remember learning anything about bikes. Maybe it's because I grew up in the country. We just kind of rode our bikes and...
Maybe. That's possible. That was like a big thing. In fact, I think at the school that I went to, I think we almost had an event every year about it, bike safety. Because they were really pushing to wear your helmet, which of course I never did. I just thought they looked horrendous at that point. I was so embarrassed to wear a helmet.
You should have tried stickers, as my parents did.
On the helmets?
Yeah,
Did
on
that
a
work?
bright pink helmet.
Oh, wow.
It had the reverse effect. I stopped riding bikes and I gained a little weight.
Yeah. I think the only way that they emphasized bike riding was when we were in preschool and we had Big Wheel Day. Like, that was always a really big deal.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome.
Big Wheel Day rocked. Like, they would block off an entire area of a playground or the parking lot, and everybody just brought their big wheels into school, and then we just...
Oh, my gosh.
We hit the pavement and went.
We love those things. I don't know if they still make them anymore, because at one point I was looking for them online. When Jacob was first born, I was thinking, I should get him a big wheel for when he's older. And I haven't seen them. I mean, we got him a little 2-wheeler bike with training wheels, but I haven't seen the big wheels. But the reason I remember them is because my brother had one, and we lived... our property was adjacent to another property that had an apartment complex, and so they had this big driveway thing that went the whole way around the complex, and it was on a hill, a pretty steep hill. And so he would take his bike the whole way to the top, or his big wheel, and then he would just let it go. And it would just like gather momentum, and the pedals are going like 100, times a minute or something. And he had worn it through so that there was actually like flat parts on the wheel, and there was holes in it and stuff. He killed that thing, but he had so much fun on it.
I love those big wheels. When I was a kid, I loved to take my legs and put them on top of the big wheel so that my feet weren't even on the pedals, and then start at the top of the hill and then just go for it. I inherited my brother's big wheel, and it had the Dukes of Hazzard stickers all over it. So let me tell you, I thought I was something special when I would go down those hills.
And it's like, what's going through your head when you're going down the hill? Does it ever occur to the kid what they're going to hit at the end? Like, or do you wipe out, or do you go around the corner, or...
I would usually wipe out, but then I get back up and do it again. Like, I was pretty fearless when it came to that big wheel.
That's amazing.
I dug that thing.
Well, just along with driving safety, somebody posted this on Facebook today. It says, it's a huge billboard, and it's a picture of a freeway with all these cars on it. And the billboard says, "Texting while driving kills," and that's in all caps. And then in the fine print at the bottom of the billboard, it says, "For more driving tips, text safety to 79191. So I don't know if that's real or if somebody just made that up, but I thought that was hilarious. or maybe tragic. Like, wouldn't it be great if somebody's laid up in the hospital and they're almost dead because they texted safety to 79191? It actually occurred to me that I should text it and see if it's real, but I forgot to do that before we came out to record, so next time.
I just feel bad for that poor, like, civil servant that actually believes that someone's going to drive down the road and think, yes, I would be interested in learning more safety tips.
Wait,
like,
what, you don't?
There's no market for that at all. Maybe if you win something or if you're entered into a drawing.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like, who
most
Googles
people...
safety tips unless they're trying to prove a point to,
Well,
like,
what if you're on a long drive, though? Like, a really long drive, and you're like, for the love of God, there's nothing else going on. Let's kill some time.
You mean like as a passenger or a driver?
Either or.
Okay.
I've taken some pretty long road trips in my day.
That's when I start to read.
In your day, because you're
Even if I'm
so old.
driving.
What about those signs that they have on the side of the road that says, like, buckle up, and then, you know, I don't know, 20 meters down the road, it says something like, don't be an aggressive driver. They have, like, 5 different ones that they cycle through. We go to Longwood Gardens a lot, and it's along this one strip, so every time we go to Longwood Gardens, I'm, like, thinking about how I should not be an aggressive driver, and then I come back to Lancaster and totally forget. But for that split second that I see the sign, I feel really guilty, and I think, wow, I really need to back off this guy. And I'm ashamed to say that I'm an aggressive driver. I think it's just because I'm impatient and I'm always running late for stuff. So I'm just like, come on, people, just let me get past you, you know?
So what do you do as an aggressive driver?
Well, I think Keith has told me that I ride people's butts a lot. I'm like up too close. But I'm starting to be more mindful of it because he's said it multiple times. So I try to be more aware and more respectful. Because I do understand that it makes you a little nervous if someone else is riding your butt. So yeah, I try to be mindful. But I forget a lot because I get lost in my agenda for the day. And I'm just thinking about where I have to go. Do you guys do that?
I'm totally an aggressive driver. Especially in the city with people who aren't necessarily used to the city. I'm just so good at weaving in
or
and
who
out.
are from other cities where it's okay to stop for 3 hours in the middle of the road.
Oh, I hate that.
Well, no. I mean, if they just aren't sure where they're going, I'm like, come on, and then
and then you hit the light, like they get through, and then you have to sit.
Yeah. If it were a video game, I would be rewarded. I would be a good driver. But in real life, I'm an aggressive female, you know, and whatever, I get to places quicker than other people. I've never been a fender bender. I think that would shake me up. Like, if my tailgating behavior was negatively reinforced. I mean, shoot, I'm a psych major. I should know this. You know, when something teaches you to not do something.
Yeah. I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It didn't work for me, though, either.
I don't think I'm an aggressive driver. I don't know. I might be in complete denial. But the thing that makes me angrier than anything else on the face of the planet, aside from driving on concrete roads, I have no clue why driving on concrete roads makes me so angry, but it does. Totally random thing.
The noise.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know what it is, but I get on there and I feel this rage just like come over my body. It's true.
It's energy.
I hate it. I hate it. But the thing that makes me just as mad are pedestrians who don't walk across the crosswalk. Especially when they, like, mill around out in front of your car and, like, hang on other people's cars. And
they don't look.
They don't
like, they know that you're there, but they're purposely not looking because that would be uncool.
Yeah. You could hit them. You really could hit them. And then they look at you like you're an idiot because you're the one who happens to be driving down the street. It makes me furious when people walk out. Not that people walk out in front of my car all the time.
No, but it happens a lot in the city.
It happens all the time in the city. Like, why can't people just cross at the crosswalk? It seems simple enough. Or just not walk across the street when people are driving down the road. It's commonsensical.
They think that you think that they're cool because they're strutting their stuff in the middle of the street. And they think they're hot stuff.
I
mean, look at all these questions. These men keep asking who's the hottest guy. I mean, they're obsessed with themselves.
The hottest guy is the guy who does not jaywalk. I think that's what my answer
there
will
you
be.
go.
Some blocks are just
there you go, Corey.
ridiculously long.
Yeah.
And so I'm not walking
Seriously?
all the way. Like, I always park on the opposite side of the street from my house. And I time my crossing very carefully, but people have actually tried to hit me. You hear them, like,
They try to hit you?
Uh-huh.
How close have you been to being hit by a car?
Not close, but I get freaked out when I can tell that someone's speeding up in order to freak me out.
Right?
So I guess mission accomplished.
Ooh,
but anyway,
that's kind of scary.
I totally understand what you mean by people who like take their time and then almost.
Well, just to
kinda
stick
rub
it to
in your
you.
face.
They do.
But
Why do they wanna stick
I
it to
say
you?
that crosswalks are not frequent enough. There should be more of them.
I agree with you. I will concede that point. I don't always cross at the crosswalks, but I do not walk in front of somebody's car and mill around and act like I'm hot stuff. I had a guy, actually, I won't go into the entire story because then you'll hear way too much about me. But this gentleman, I'm getting fired up thinking about it. This gentleman walked out in front of a series of cars, including mine, and when he got to the front of my car, he slapped my hood and danced in front of my car.
Oh my goodness.
And it was all I could do. I didn't contain my emotions very well, but I was livid. And let's just say that the entire altercation ended with him walking up the street, getting a rock and throwing it at my car and leaving a dent in it.
Wow.
It was, I don't know. And I just thought, like, why do you need to walk in front of my car to begin with? And now
then
why are you
just
throwing a
slap
rock at my car? So I am not a fan of pedestrians walking in front of my car. $500 worth of damage because he couldn't just walk in front of my, at the crosswalk.
So, folks, if you're out there listening, what kind of car do you drive, Jasmine?
I do not drive any car that I'm going to say on the air.
Oh, all right. Well, I thought maybe we could just warn everyone, if you see her coming, don't walk in the street because she might run you over.
Or someone will dump paint on my car for saying how angry that made me. But, yeah, I was pretty salty that day.
I can imagine. Your heart's racing.
It was. Man. All right, new topic, lady.
Okay, well, speaking of strong emotions, that wasn't a misunderstanding, but this maybe was. I found this on Twitter today and thought that the concept in general was really interesting, but it was also kind of in the news today because it's a controversy that I saw. So my last topic from the last ladies' night was about Sweden, and as I was driving here, I realized this topic is also about Sweden. Don't ask me why I'm obsessed. I just think they do interesting things as a country.
You're just consistent.
Yes.
You are very consistent.
So we haven't talked about Twitter on ladies' night at all. So, Jasmine, you're on Twitter.
I am on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter. Lauren is not on Twitter.
I'm not on Twitter. I'm sorry.
The Lancast is on Twitter.
Yes.
The Lancast is on Twitter.
So, whether you like it or not, I think it's a really interesting thing to observe and watch it change and see how people use it. But Sweden takes the cake again for edginess, and they actually have a national account. It's called @Sweden.
Nice.
And it's like the Nation of Sweden's Twitter account, but they give it out on a weekly basis. So every 7 days, it's a new Swede who's kind of representing Sweden through his or her daily life. And so it's really interesting. I've followed them for a couple months, and I feel like I really get a good flavor for like the heartbeat of Sweden, which is interesting because I don't know how much you know about Sweden. I don't know too much either, but it's a really wealthy nation. It's very socialist. They have a lot of refugees for having such a small population to begin with, and they're always testing out new policies and ways of doing government. So it's just really interesting to see the different sides of it. And so this week, it's this, I forget her name. Her name is Sonia something, but she's like this really interesting, very controversial single mom. She's like in her early 20s, and she just has all these kind of angry or just controversy brewing things to say. So today, she was just like totally thinking out loud, which is what Twitter is often used for by so many people. And there are also so many grammar errors, which is really funny because it's all in English, and I appreciate them doing that. English is not their first language.
Americans can't even. We can't even do it.
Yeah,
so.
well, grammar is a different topic. So today, Sonia had this just like kind of inflammatory comment that was like, basically, I don't understand anti-Semitism. She said, like, what's the fuzz with Jews? You can't even tell who's a Jew and who's not. Why do people get so you're just so concerned about that? And people just really misunderstood her comment, and then she just made things worse. She's like, in Nazi Germany, they even had to sew stars on their sleeves. If they didn't, they could never know who's a Jew and who was not a Jew. And I think people were just getting really angry, and then she was responding defensively. And I was just kind of baffled that this woman was representing the nation of Sweden and saying such stupid things. Or, I don't know. But I was impressed by Sweden's ability or a desire to say, you know what, like, we are our people, and as long as we show like a representative slice of our people, then they can say what they want. So I thought that was really interesting.
Wow, that would never happen here. Never. I don't know. Do you think it could? I don't think it could happen here because we're always like throwing out disclaimers or asking people to come back on and apologize. You never get away with that here.
I don't think it would happen on Twitter, but I think indirectly, when we go overseas specifically when we go overseas, we're really an ambassador for our nation. So our actions, like, cause an entire group of people to think, oh, well, this is what all Americans are like.
That's true.
So even though I don't know if it would happen on Twitter, I think that it happens all the time. And although what she said was very inflammatory and very controversial, I think people do things like that all the time, and it doesn't make it right. But they do it all the time, and now people just have a platform to do it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what she was saying. I got out of that she was saying, why does anybody care if you're a Jew or not? Because you can't tell by our looks, so why does it matter to anyone? Isn't that what she was getting at?
Yeah, and that's the saddest part. Like, she didn't say anything that I think was wrong, but she just said it so poorly,
right,
and so offhandedly that people
didn't
who
get
were
it.
already maybe a little more defensive on that topic just kind of pounced on that, and it was just unfortunate. And it was like language and culture and and race, and it was just ugly. And Twitter, like, so it was interesting. But I thought even before I saw this going down that the concept was really interesting, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had like an @Lancaster account? Because
I believe we do.
We do. Okay, well,
What, the We Are Lancaster? Is that what it is?
No, that was a blog that kind of failed. I wrote for a little bit.
Keith saw some job posting where the city or some government organization locally is looking for someone to do that, to be their Facebook and Twitter person.
The mayor's office is doing that right now.
Is that who it was? Yeah, he saw it, and he was like, really?
Sounds like the easiest job in the world.
That's what he said. He's like, they actually pay someone to do that? But I mean, obviously, I would expect that it would have to be approved. I don't think they would just let you go in there and say whatever you wanted to.
But I think it would be more interesting if it was doled out in a short-term basis like that to individuals.
Like, if people really understand that that's what it is, then people don't necessarily think that that's what the government of that particular area thinks or feels.
It doesn't reflect, the positions of government officials, but it really shows you an interesting portrayal of life and the different diversity that make up a place or a country or a community. So that would be fun for Lancaster, I think.
It could be really interesting. I mean, have you seen the book America 24/7? It's a similar idea. It's not on Twitter, but it's this book where people essentially submit pictures of their slice of American life. And it's this huge compilation of pictures. And it shows you, as you were saying, like different sections and voices and opinions and basically how people live all over America. So maybe it would be really interesting to have something like that in Lancaster. I'm not sure who would run it or...
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
But it could be interesting to see, like, what do the people of Lancaster really act like and sound like and think about this area.
Mm-hmm. Jasmine, what was your topic for tonight?
My topic for tonight was random things we do in our sleep.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So, ladies, who wants to head this one up?
I don't even know where to begin with my sleeping. I am a sleepwalker and a sleep talker, and I really think I should be studied. My friends and I have just decided that because you don't see this level of sleepwalking and sleep talking with an adult usually, so it's really fun. I've done it ever since second grade. That's my first memory of sleepwalking and sleep talking, and it's always like something else is going on, like I am in another place doing something else, and then I realize I'm in my room, and then the scenario kind of morphs and it gets really funny. So I could sit here and tell you stories for hours. Recently,
your best one.
Okay, maybe one of the creepiest ones that shows you to the extent to which it's come is, I went on a epic road trip with two of my best girlfriends from college, 3,000 miles in 7 days or something crazy like that. And our first night on the road, we drove from Denver to the middle of Wyoming, in the middle of nowhere. And we went to a rodeo, and it was like a legit rodeo where there are little boys, 3 years old, strapped to like wild rams with the big horns. And that's how they begin their journey to being bull riders. And so it goes all the way from wild rams to like baby calves to younger bulls, and all the way up to broncos, and then finally to the huge bulls. And it's crazy. It was so fun. And so then that night, my friends were arguing over who was going to share a bed with me because they know me well enough to know that I'm crazy when I'm asleep. And so
note to self.
It fell to Jen. Jen and I shared a bed. And she woke me up in the middle of the night saying, Becky, you're really scaring me. Can you just stop? And then I'm like, what? And she's like, you're talking about 2 little boys. I'm like, oh, yeah. So I realized I had been dreaming about these 2 little boys from the radio, and they were in the room. And so I was like talking to them, I guess, in my sleep. And she's like, Becky, there's nobody there. I'm like, no, Jen, there are 2 little boys right there. And I was still awake. Like my voice sounded just like it did. It sounded then like it does now. Very coherent, very aware of myself. She could have like asked me my times tables. I would have answered them as perfectly as I could now. And I was like, look, Jen, I know you think I'm crazy, but I am looking with my eyes open, and I see a little boy in a black hat and a little boy in a white hat, and I saw them at the rodeo tonight. I know who they are. They're not going to scare us. Like, there's nothing wrong. They're just standing there. It's okay. And she was, like, really freaking out. And I was like, here, I'll show you. And this is always where it changes. I turn the light on, and then I'm like, oh, my gosh, there's nothing there. But I'm, like, completely conscious and still seeing these kids. And that's happened so many times. Like last night even. It's been hot recently, so I keep thinking that there are men in my room, like in my bed, and I don't want them there. And so I like feel around, and I realize, oh shoot, there's a guy here. So it's tactile. Like my muscles think that there are people there, even though they're pillows. And so I'm like, there is a dude in my bed. I'm so mad. Like, who does he think he is? And then I like slowly put more clothes on, and I sneak out to the light, and I turn it on. I'm ready to bust them, and I realize, oh shoot, it's my covers.
So at no point during that episode do you realize, like, you don't think, oh, this happened to me before. That's right. That never occurs to you?
No.
That's just very curious.
Wow. I have night terrors, but I don't remember them. And my husband, he's kind of gotten used to them over time. And I guess the last night terror I had was a couple, I'm going to say 6-8 months ago. And he said that I busted out of bed and then ran down the hall. And my husband's like, wow, she's really brave. I wonder if there's someone in the house. And then he realized, because I have a lot of night terrors about snakes, he's like, oh, honey, there's no snakes in bed. Come back. And then he'll go and he'll get me. And I've fallen down the steps with night terrors. Like, I'll stand up on the bed sometimes and scream to get the snakes out of the bed. And I don't really know how people behave while I'm doing this because I'm out of it. But Corey said last night that I said to him, he had come in after he was playing a game and I was asleep, and he was, I guess, fiddling around and woke me up, but I wasn't really awake. And he said, sorry, honey, I'm just going to bed. And I said, it's too hot in here to fake my own death. And then I took his pillow and I rolled over and went back to sleep. So evidently we have very random conversations when I'm sleeping, and I guess it's a little entertaining in the Grimm household.
That's hilarious.
How about you? You do anything like that?
I'm totally boring. Or at least if I do something, I don't know about it. Like, I haven't been told that I do anything.
But you had that thing happen to you the other day.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is the greatest story. So it's, I don't know, 3 a.m. or something. And you know how when you're first waking up and you can hear stuff in the background and you're still dreaming, and then slowly you're not dreaming anymore, but you're really confused. So I hear this loud, like, crying or whining, and I think I was dreaming that it was kids or something. And then slowly I wake up, and I look down beside the bed, and there is a real live cat in my bedroom, but I don't have a cat. And I just, like, your eyes are adjusting, and you're like, what in the world? And I'm like, Keith, wake up. And he's like, what, And he looks over and he's like, oh my, and then it's still mewing, and it jumps up on the bed. And we're like, it's not, like, I'm not even afraid of cats. I grew up with cats. I love cats. But I wasn't expecting that. So we both touched it, And I'm like, okay, it's real. It's a real cat. And then I'm racking my brain, like, did we leave a window open? But I'm thinking, no, like, we have screens, so even if we did, I'm like just trying to figure out how this thing got in. So we get out of bed, and it walks back down the steps like it owns the place, and it goes down to the basement. And we're sort of still stumbling around trying to figure out what's going on. And then we get down to the basement and realize that we can't find this thing anywhere. And if you've seen our basement, you'd understand this, but it's complete, like it's just a junk hole. And there's stuff everywhere because we never have time to clean it out. So we're looking everywhere. I think we probably looked for 15 or 20 minutes and we could not find this thing. And it was so loud, like it was meowing and then nothing. We're calling for it. We're trying to think of other ways to lure it out. And so I said, well, I guess we just have to go back to bed because I'm really tired. And so we decided to close the door to the kitchen so that it couldn't come back up and freak us out again. But then the next morning, Keith spent half the morning looking for this cat, and it's nowhere. And we think how it got in the first place was that he had the basement doors open because he was carrying some stuff in and out while he was working outside. And we think that it just snuck in. But it was probably 11 o'clock in the morning, and I decided every time Keith had gone down to look for it, he would turn the light on. So I decided I was just going to sneak down and just poke my head around when the light was off. And I could see it sitting on the steps by the basement door, like just trying to figure out how to get back out. Mm. So then I run back upstairs and I'm like, Keith, So he comes and then it's gone again. So anyway, it was a long story, but we finally got this thing out of our basement. And I think it was probably sometime in the afternoon at this point. That was really freaky. So we had this joke about the ghost cat that we actually touched. And the funniest part is I think it belongs to our neighbors 2 doors down, but they don't speak English, so I didn't know how to tell them. We just kind of threw it back over the wall. So, well, this has gotten to be a little longer evening than I expected, but there's something really important that I wanted to talk about before we head out this evening. A friend of mine is doing a fundraiser for Love 146, and that is a nationwide organization that is working to end child sex slavery and exploitation. And so they have this event it started on May 1st and it ends on June 30th called Tread on Trafficking. And it's nationwide. People who are participating are choosing some sort of activity, like my friends are doing running. So they have committed to run 150 miles in 6 weeks, and they're trying to raise $1,500. So do my math, that's $10 a mile. So I was thinking if we could get 100 people to donate $15, that would be the $1,500. And I donated my $15. Yay! But I'm throwing it all back to you guys to see if we can get some more support for this, because she's been trying to get support and just hasn't really gotten a lot of feedback, but they've been running a lot. And so I don't want all of this activity that they're doing to go for nothing. So the organization again is love146.org, and they work primarily in Southeast Asia. Their big focus is actually on the aftercare of children who are rescued from sex slavery, and that's a really huge thing over in that culture. In the U.S., they work really hard to educate people. Some statistics that she just gave me today, she said over 100,000 kids are trafficked in the U.S. every year.
Oh my God.
That's just in our country, which I totally was blown away. I knew that there was some kind of problem, but it's just not something that you really hear about in this nation. And then worldwide, there's 300 million children who are put through this system every year. So this is a really important issue that I don't think gets nearly enough notice or spotlight. And so we're trying to get some people to put some money towards this to help with the aftercare of these kids. So I'm going to put the links on the website so you can check it out. There will be a link to the website itself, and then there will also be a link to Ken and Mirta's page specifically to fundraise for that. So do us a favor and go on and donate some cash.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for Ladies' Night. That's all for tonight.
We hope you've been enjoying the Lancast.
This episode was produced by myself, David Moulton, with show notes by Keith and Lauren Slesser.
All pertinent links to this episode can be found in the show notes at thelancast.com.
If you specifically liked this episode, we ask that you consider making a donation.
Every little bit helps. Even $1 a show can keep us going.
If you'd like to help support us, you can do so by going to thelancast.com/donate.
And don't forget to subscribe in iTunes and tell a friend about the show.
So, for the Lancast, I'm David Moulton,
And I'm Keith Slesser.
asking, are you in the cast?
Harness the power of the beard and focus.
Who is the hottest guys' night host? So, if you're listening for the first time, I should introduce you to these gentlemen. We have David Moulton, so he wants, he's just putting himself out there. Then we have my husband, Keith Slesser. And
Who is not out there,
That is-
according to
yeah,
your
he's not putting
viewpoint.
himself out there. He didn't ask the question, is what I meant. And then we have Jason Mundak. So, since we all know them, that's a really awkward question.
I'm going to choose to maintain some professional distance and just not answer.
I'm going to go for David because he had the balls to ask the question.
Oh, man. I think it depends on the day.
But you're married to one of them.
I know, but he's not always hot. I'm not always hot either. You wake up and you look pretty crappy in the morning sometimes. But see, I've always seen David after he's, gotten all done up and he's got his makeup on and he had Jasmine pick out a new shirt for him. So, I mean, that's really not fair. That question isn't fair. So, I'm not going to say anything on that one.
I stand by my choice. Confidence rocks.
Yes!
Yes. Now, David has acknowledged that he is in the room, and so this really isn't just ladies' night, but oh well.